What is a flight response? Flight or running away is a coping mechanism to trauma. It could be mental, emotional, physical, or sexual trauma. It has the same effect on our body and brain. A simple definition of trauma is that you thought your world was safe, something happened, and you no longer felt safe. In response to that trauma, our nervous system is automatically hardwired to keep us safe. There are 3 stages to this pre-programmed response. Whenever we feel threatened, we instinctively turn to the first level, which is social engagement. We call out for help, support, and comfort from the people around us. But if no one comes to our aid, or we're in immediate danger, then we revert to a more primitive way to survive: fight or flight. We fight off our attacker, or we run away to a safe place. However, if this fails, we can't get away, or we're held down or trapped, we try to protect ourselves by shutting down and expending as little energy as possible. We are then in a state of freeze or collapse. The first stage is social engagement, call for help. The second stage is fight or flight. The third stage is collapse or freeze. The body signals defeat and withdraws. What does this look like experientially? Our body has a built-in warning system that is part of our nervous system. When we are in danger, signals through stress hormones are sent to our brain. These signals provide a lightning-fast response to threats. Like when a car in front of you slams on their brakes, you feel a rush of emotions and you quickly brake to avoid an accident. For me, this feels like a pulsing in my head, a wave of heat through my entire body, and my breathing gets faster. For a person not affected by trauma, you quickly return to a place of calm and continue to go throughout your day. The car in front of you, in this example, can be compared to trauma triggers for you. You are going throughout your day, and out of nowhere, there are red brake lights. You are in danger. It could be a smell, a song, a color, a name, or someone that reminds you of someone else. In an instant, you are back in that unsafe and vulnerable place. You respond with your go-to coping mechanism of flight. The hardest part? No one else sees the brake lights. Everyone else goes about their day as if nothing is happening. For those who live with PTSD, the proverbial car slams on their brakes. You experience a trauma trigger that no one else sees or relates to. Your warning system goes off and then does not go back to a place of balance and calm. Instead, stress hormones stay elevated. Danger signals continue to flood your entire system repeatedly, day after day, for weeks, months, and years on end. In the long term, this cycle wreaks havoc on your health. In this video, we are focused on the flight or running away component. It is important to recognize, though, that each of these reactions is in response to a threat or a trauma to keep us safe. Flight or avoiding is a coping mechanism. It is a pre-programmed response of our nervous system when we feel threatened. That threat could be a real one, such as a trauma, or it could be a perceived threat, such as a trigger. A trigger is something that reminds us of a previous event where we felt threatened or unsafe. In his book, The Body Keeps the Score, Dr. Kolk explains it this way. After trauma, the world is experienced with a different nervous system. The survivor's energy now becomes focused on suppressing inner chaos at the expense of spontaneous involvement in their own life. These attempts to maintain control over unbearable physiological reactions can result in a whole range of physical symptoms, including fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and other autoimmune diseases. This explains why it is critical for trauma treatment to engage the entire person, body, mind, and brain. Now, you might think to yourself, I've never experienced trauma, or, well, yeah, I experienced some hard things, but other people had it so much worse. This is not the Olympics of suffering, and just because someone else's journey looks different than yours does not mean that yours is not valid. Something to be aware of is chronic emotional abuse and neglect can be just as devastating as physical abuse and sexual molestation. Not being seen, not being known, and having nowhere to turn to feel safe is devastating at any age. It is particularly destructive for young children. If your go-to emotion in your life when you feel threatened, unsafe, or vulnerable is to avoid or run away, You are not alone. It is meaningful to recognize that this is a stress response. It is a reaction to a time and a place in your life where you felt unseen, unheard, or unsafe, and you are going to avoid re-experiencing that pain at all costs. You will protect yourself and keep yourself safe, especially if you weren't in a position to do so previously. It is also worthwhile to bring up that different personality types tend to respond to trauma and triggers differently. If your way of handling conflict is to avoid, there is a good chance you handle trauma or triggers by running away. Recognize that this is a coping mechanism that was often born out of a necessity to keep you safe. My question for you is, are you in a safe place now? If you are, is this coping mechanism still keeping you safe, or is it now keeping you stuck? Is it supporting you in creating the life you want, or do you feel like you're running in a rat maze, trying to find your way out, and at times feeling hopeless because you have run into so many dead ends? Give yourself grace, understanding, and compassion for the wonderful job you have done keeping yourself safe. Self-compassion is the opposite of judgment. You cannot love yourself and judge yourself at the same time. And if you know anything about being human, it is that our default is judgment and self-judgment. You cannot judge and reject yourself while healing and growing. Those mindsets are at odds with each other. What is the cure to judgment, rejection, and hatred of self? It is compassion. So show yourself that kindness and compassion. And will you do me a favor? If this video has been helpful for you, will you share it with a friend or a loved one that it would support? And remember to keep shining. We need your light.